This is exercise 5. The drawing begins with the construction radius circle, which is 54. Then we're going to draw a vertical construction line to that 54 radius circle and copy and paste it a few times, and then use the rotate command in order to get the degrees that we need for the 32 and the 23 that are shown here on the drawing. Because I plan on rotating and then mirroring the line, I am cutting these dimensions in half. So when I am drawing it, you'll see that instead of rotating at 32 degrees, I'm going to rotate my line half of 32, which is 16, and the same goes for the 23 degrees. The line that I rotate will be rotated at 11.5 degrees. So I'm going to minimize this. I started the drawing just so you can see ahead of time what to expect. So the circle with the 54 radius, the line length is 54, and I am going to copy and paste that line on top of itself twice. So I wind up with 3 copies of that line on this same place. Okay. Once I've done that, you can see I've taken the line and rotated it. So I did one rotation at 11.5 degrees and the next one at 16 degrees. Those then are going to be mirrored on this vertical line. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm just going to scroll that over to the left and change over to my construction layer, grab a circle. Alright, so I'm just going to start this, type in 54 for my radius. Okay, I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and now I'm going to begin the line command, and I want to snap to the center of that circle, and I'm just going to draw a vertical line. Once it intersects the circle, I'll stop, hit the enter key to complete that command. Now I'm going to select my line, type in CO for copy, okay, and it wants to know what is the base point. We're going to use the bottom of that line. Alright, so now you can see AutoCAD is ready to start pasting this line wherever I place it. I'm just going to be pasting it on top of itself. So I'm going to left click 2 times. With that done, I'm just going to hit the enter key to complete the command. You can tell that there are multiple lines here because it's a little bit darker. All right, and that's a fairly easy thing to see in AutoCAD. You should always make note of how the object or even construction lines look in your drawing. If you have lines that are the same line weight, but in some places that line looks darker than in others, that might mean that you have multiple lines lying on top of each other. Alright, so I'm going to type in RO, start rotate. Alright, I am prompted to select the objects I want to rotate. I'm going to select the line and hit the enter key. The base point of my rotation is going to be the bottom of the line, alright, because I want it to rotate. And AutoCAD is always going to, by default, rotate counterclockwise. So I can anticipate that those lines are going to rotate left of the line that I currently have drawn. Alright, so my rotation angle, the first one is 11.5. Okay, now I'm going to hit enter to start the rotate command again. Select the line, right click to complete my selection, identify my base point. Alright, and then I'm going to type in 16 degrees. Okay, with those two in place, I always like to double check my dimensions before I go any further. So I'm just going to zoom in and select both lines. All right, so I've got 11.5 and I've got my vertical line, and that's at 16. Okay, so I feel confident that when I mirror these, I will have the correct degrees when I'm finished. So let's go ahead, type in MI, start the mirror command, and we are going to mirror both lines at the same time. Okay, right click. All right, the first point of my mirror line is going to be the end point of that line. I'll bring my cursor straight up, and once I snap, I'm going to click a second time. Do I want to erase the source objects? No, I do not, because I need these. These are eventually going to become the lines that we use for our object. Okay, the next place where a lot of students get tripped up in this drawing problem is they see down here 79 degrees. Well, that's the same thing that's represented right here. So taking a closer look at this drawing, this red dashed line, that's our 32 degrees. And the 23 degree line can just get mirrored about this axis, and that'll give us the line that we will use to create the geometry for our 79 degree cutout here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now, and just in case this is confusing, I'm going to delete the dimensions that I put on there, and I'm going to redimension this just so you see that I have the correct degrees. Okay, so we have 23 and 32. Okay, all right, so let's go ahead and start the mirror command. Okay, and the line that I want to select is going to be the one that belongs with my 23 degrees. All right, right click, and the mirror line, I have to come down here, and the second point of my mirror line, remember, we're mirroring on the 32 degree angle. So I'm going to go ahead and click now. All right, I don't want to erase the source object. Okay, so this is the first line that is going to go with my 79 degrees. So we can do the same philosophy that we applied earlier. I can copy this line, okay, and I'm going to go back to the same spot for my base point. Okay, so you can see it's ready to paste, and I'm just going to paste it on top of itself one time. All right, hit enter to complete the command, and now I'm going to select that line, type in RO to rotate it, go to my base point. All right, and the rotation angle is 79 degrees. All right, so I have all the geometry set up for myself here. The rest of it is fairly straightforward because I can draw my object lines on here pretty quickly. So I'm going to draw them out now. Let's switch over to our zero layer, get the line tool. I'm going to try to address the, you know what, before I do that, there is a construction circle that I need to put in place. So we see that there is, let's zoom out and go back a drawing. There we go. Okay. So the drawing shows us that there is 20 degrees that will be for the radius, and that is going to establish the spacing of these cutouts in this wheel. So I'm going to go ahead and draw that. Actually, I don't need to draw it as a construction circle, but we can put that in as on our object layer. All right, and that way I just know where my object line is going to be drawn. So let's go back to the object layer. All right, get our circle started. Okay, and I'm going to do a center circle. It has a radius of 20. All right, now I'm going to get the line tool going, and I am going to draw a series of lines. Okay, and they are all just tracing over what I already have. Okay, so this doesn't take very long. Right, so I am continually hitting enter to complete the line command and then hitting it a second time to restart it. So I'm just keeping my hand on the enter key on my keyboard to make this easier for myself. All right, so we know that we need to be putting some fillets in place here. And the issue that we run into with it is you cannot fillet to a circle. It has to be an arc. So we're going to have to trim our circle. We need let's go ahead and put a 54 diameter circle on our object layer. Okay. All right, so I'm going to start the trim tool, and I need to trim, again, I just need to trim that circle from my object layer so that I can begin to put a radius on it. So now we can go to fillet. All right, and our drawing shows us that all of these curves here are 6 degrees. Okay, and we're given the information on what the curve down here is. It's 10 degrees. At no point does the drawing tell us what the arc is here, but trial and error, it seems that a radius of 3 works pretty well for this part right here. So in the fillet, first thing I need to do is set my radius. So I'm going to type in 6. All right, and I have multiple places where I'm going to apply that radius. So I'm going to click on multiple, or I could just type M on my my keyboard if I wanted to. And we need to fillet this line to this and this one here. Okay, and then the same thing, I need to do the same thing over here, but my circle got trimmed off in the process of doing that fillet. So we're actually going to have to exit out of the fillet command and redraw the circle again. All right, it has the same, it's the same size, radius of 54. Again, I will have to trim it in order to be able to put the fillet on. So let's go ahead and start the fillet command, and we are going to fillet and oh yeah, okay, there we go. Okay, all right, so I have those I have the fillets done at 6 degrees. Down here, I believe the degrees are 10. Yep, so we can go ahead and take care of that now. So, all right, so fillet radius is 10. Okay, and we're our line, our circle, same thing over here. Okay, all right, so that all looks good. And then remember, through trial and error, we have found that a radius of 3 is what works best. So we'll put a radius of 3 on here. There we go. Okay. All right, so we have all the fillets in place. I don't really need this circle anymore, but it is part of these curves, so trimming it is really going to be the best way for me to handle that. And you can see I'm not drawing any more of these because my plan is to use the array tool to create multiple instances of these. Okay. All right, so I have those in place, and I did have us draw this as an object line, and that was not necessary, so my mistake. Okay, so we have those two are done, which seem to be this seems to be the hardest part of this drawing for everybody. The rest of it is going to be fairly straightforward. I can tell you in advance. Here, let's pretend that I am ready to array. This video, by the way, is not going to be complete, so I just want you to know that ahead of time. So I only want to select the objects on my 0 layer. I don't want to accidentally array my construction lines or any of my dimensions, because that is going to cause problems for me later on. So we can go ahead and freeze the construction layer. I don't think I have anything on this layer, but I'm going to freeze it anyway, and I'm going to go ahead and freeze the dimension layer. So I won't have to worry about accidentally choosing those things now. All right, so I want to select what I have, and I'm going to start an array, but I did not want that kind of an array. Okay. I do not see where I can change it once. Okay, so, oh great. All right, so Control Z got me out of that one. All right, let's try that again. I'm going to select these, make sure they hit the down arrow, go to Polar Array. All right, and even though I have my other layers frozen, I'm still able to select a center point. I think it's because it's showing me the center point of this circle right here, which works out perfectly for us. So that is the center of my array. All right, there are not going to be 6 instances of this. There's only 3. All right, so I have that. This is where you need to pay attention. In your array ribbon, the associative option controls whether all those objects remain connected to each other, or whether you can still manipulate them individually. So if you uncheck associative, it means that when I close this array, I can still select individual parts of my drawing, and they're not all going to be selected. Versus, let's go and pretend we're going to start this again. Okay, if I leave associative on and just the number of items here, Okay, I'm going to close my array. Now what happens is when I click on one, I've clicked on them all. And the thing is, the array ribbon never shows me that option again. Once it's created, I don't have an option to disassociate those items from each other. They're associated, and I have not seen anywhere. I mean, you go through here and look at each of these grips and the options that come up with it, and there is just, it won't be an option. Okay, so I would recommend thinking about that ahead of time. If you are confident that what you've done is right, then that's great. But if you needed to make a change, if you have duplicate lines on top of each other, if you accidentally grabbed some construction lines and wound up putting those into your polar array, well, you're not going to be able to get rid of them unless you delete the whole thing and redo it. Okay, so that is my helpful tip regarding that. The rest of this drawing is fairly straightforward. You know, placing the circles, you know where they go. There you're given the dimension for those circles, for the outer circle, all the information for this smaller feature inside here is given on this image here. When you draw these, they have a radius of 1, these tiny little notches, but they are tangent to this construction circle, and you're given the radius for that as well, which is 6. So that's going to be very straightforward. All right, well, I will let you guys take it away. Good luck, and make sure you keep your layers separate. Watch out for pasting lines on top of each other too many times, and good luck.